Hello, welcome to another video in our series, How to Build Multi-Generational Wealth. In this particular video, we're dealing with the question, why do you struggle so much? Why is life such a struggle? Now, before we get into the details of that question, let me ask you a slightly different question is, what if you had all the money that you wanted? What if you didn't have to struggle? The question really is, would it be about you or would it be about your ecosystem? I mean, would your life be focused on just making sure you have the best life possible, or would it be focused on helping people around you? You'll see why this is important as we go further down. Now, which painful questions apply to you? We have so many of this that we grapple with on a regular basis. And this is just a list of some of those. I've been fishing here, there, and everywhere, but I have no result to show for it. That's what a lot of us complain about. Why is it that whenever I have money saved, something happens that causes me to use it for something else? Another question is, why can't I grow beyond a certain point with my finances or with relationships or with my health? The list can go on and on and on. Why? What is it that I'm missing? Why do I keep dealing with the same issues over and over again? Now, obviously, the list of questions is very long and it'll be specific for specific individuals, but the essence of it comes down to a few simple things that we're going to talk about. Now, successful innovation execution model is basically, if you want things to succeed in your life, this is the model. Number one, clarify what your priorities are. What do you want? Why do you want it? Two, what resources do you have? Three, what processes are you going to follow? And once you have this done, then you've got to have an action plan and then deliver on the action plan. Now, this is what's important. Know the game you play. Now, a lot of people in the workplace, for example, will complain, look, I'm not getting promotions. I've been trying to do this and this and this and this. But you got to understand the nature of the game. In corporate, for example, you get a promotion not necessarily because you're impressing your manager. You got to impress his peers or her peers because what your manager says about you is a reflection on him or her. So if you impress him or her, your boss, you got to be sharing the good things that you're doing with her peers, with the superiors. That's the nature of the game. You know, you got to make everybody know that you're as good as you want them to believe you are. So that's the first thing. Know the game you play. Two, you got to master the basics. There is no getting around this one. You've got to master the basics. But three, and this is where really things move on to the next level, you got to bring in your individuality, okay, your uniqueness. And this is how you take the game to the next level. Now, but we still haven't answered the question, why is life such a struggle? Now, the reason comes down to what in physics we call entropy. Entropy says life happens spontaneously in the direction of greater disorder. Okay? When you have a garden and you don't take care of it, what's going to happen? Weeds are going to start popping up and then it's going to be overgrown. So that is the natural way things happen. So if you want things to happen in a different direction, you got to do things differently. There's certain things that you got to do. Now let's look at these two pictures here. In one, you have this lady who is in this highly cluttered cupboard. Okay, it's very easy for things to be that way. All you do, you've got like stuff from the washing, you just throw it in there, you just throw it in there. It's gonna be just a pile of stuff. But the other picture shows a closet that's very orderly. It takes work to make it look this way. And that's really what it boils down to. Okay? Disorder happens spontaneously in life, and that's why our job is to make sure that there is no disorder in our lives, which means we've got to put in the effort. So, order requires a number of things. One of them is the right process, but it's not just one of those. Okay, but why are things the way they are? Now, science does not provide a valid reason for that because science says, we had a big bang and then life just happened and there's no purpose to it. And eventually everything is going to collapse on itself again and that kind of stuff. So there really is no point to life except you just happen to be living, just make the most of it. But the Bible has a completely different story. Now, this is a picture that is basically a summary of the entire Bible storyline. Now, I'm not going to go into detail. All I want to make clear is this. One, in Genesis chapters 1 and 2, we have what the Bible calls the Garden of Eden, right? So man lives in this Garden of Eden. This Garden of Eden, by the way, is the paradise of God. It's where God lives, but it's a terrestrial version of heaven, in other words, okay? And so man has everything that he needs. He doesn't struggle and there's no pain. So life is very good. But God says to man, there's one thing that I want you not to do. Do not eat of this particular fruit from this particular tree. So man, after a while, decides, I wonder what would happen if I did that. And he goes and eats of that fruit that he was told not to. But God had told him, if the day you did this, things would fall apart for you. And that's really what happened. So essentially, God kicks men from this garden of plenty into that portion of the planet that was not this garden. Remember, the garden was not everything on the planet, it was just a portion of the planet. But this is what God says. It says, because you have chosen to disobey me, you have chosen to rebel against me. We find this in Genesis chapter 3, verses 15 to 19. God says, from now on, you are going to struggle to earn a living. You're going to struggle to find food to eat. Everything is going to become very difficult. So you used to live in a land of plenty. Now you're moving into a land of scarcity. Okay. And that's really what in Bible terms we call a curse, the curse that God pronounced on man because he chose to rebel against him. That is the beginning of struggling. In science, we call it entropy, but the Bible calls it a curse. So basically, your life is designed in such a way that you struggle from day one. But this is what God says. He calls a man called Abraham in Genesis chapter 12, and he says, and this is the general principle to us, if you choose to follow my system, I will make sure that even though you live in a world of scarcity, you will continue to experience abundance. That's very interesting. So man lived in an area of abundance, then he moved to an area of scarcity, but God says, you will continue to experience abundance if you follow certain principles. So now we have two systems operating. One is the system of scarcity, another one is the system of abundance. Okay? And this is really where this whole struggling and suffering comes from. Now, how do you overcome entropy? Remember what we said entropy is? Entropy is things happen spontaneously in the direction of greater disorder. Entropy is chaos just happens, disorder happens with ease. So how do you overcome that? Okay, so disorder is absence of intentionality. Think about it. If you have a garden that's sitting there, well, not sitting there, but if you have a garden there and you don't care about the garden, what's going to happen? Weeds are going to start popping up. So intentionality is very important. And another way of saying the same thing is if you want order, you got to be clear, this is what I want. So is again priorities we spoke about earlier, intentionality or intention, you know, and then you need to follow a process. So intention is important, a process is important, but that's not all because you need energy to do these things. Okay. And so another way of saying the same thing is process, it's energy, and it's sequence. To build a house, you don't just start like throwing bricks all over the place. You've got to do it in a particular way. So this picture of a sunflower is very orderly because that's how nature makes sure that it creates order in contrast to entropy. Now, scarcity or abundance mindset, what do you believe? Do you believe in scarcity? Do you believe in abundance? Now, a lot of us, unfortunately, believe in scarcity because that's how we raised. There has never been a period or situation where we didn't lack anything. We've always lacked something. Okay, so abundance, again, remember, it's about absence of intentionality, and that's absence of intentionality leads to disorder. Okay, let me just say that again. And again, burning desire and process is what you need for success. That burning desire is that intentionality we spoke about, the priority. Why do you want something so badly? And again, we're saying success, it's about energy and sequence. I'm just like, saying the same thing over and over using different words and different principles. Now, the general principle is this: what do you have in your hand? What skill, not skill, but what talents were you born with? You got to take those talents and develop them into a powerful skill. Remember, the world buys solutions. So you got to use your skill to create solutions for your ecosystem, for those people around you. Again, we're talking about creativity. Okay. You offer solutions. The world wants you for the solutions that you offer. You're in your marriage because your wife feels comfortable with you because you offer certain solutions, what she was looking for in a man, or if you're a man in a woman, that kind of thing. Life really revolves around solutions. Okay, and again, it's important to form partnerships, because partnerships is how you really grow beyond your capabilities. If you good with creating problems but you lousy with selling, that's where partnerships come in. They help you to sell what you have created. And again, it's important to manage the process wisely. Life, by the way, is about two things: about identity and it's about management. But there's a video that explains that in a lot more detail. Now, remember, you are going to spend your life in the future. Doesn't it make sense for you to plan today for the things that you're going to need then in the future? I mean, it is so obvious, it is so logical, but so many of us don't do that. We kind of winging it. Okay, we'll see, when I get there, I'll see, I'll make a plan, I'll hustle. No, 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 no. Stop hustling. Make a plan. Hustling is for people who do not make plans. There's an element of it that you, of course, need to do, but make a plan. Plan for the future, because you're going to spend a lot of time there. That's essentially what we say. And wealth, really, it's about two. This is the most important thing that I'd like you to get from this video. To build wealth, there are two instruments that you need. One is time, the other one is assets. We have time by virtue of being alive. Okay, young people obviously have more time than older people, but what really makes a difference is assets. The sooner you start collecting assets, the sooner the assets are going to start working for you. Okay, and really, you give your time and assignment through your assets. That's another way of saying the same thing. Okay, and number two is, remember, assets multiply your creativity. Here I am recording this video. Here you are watching this video. If you and I have assets, it means the assets are working while we're doing this. Our assets are working while we're sleeping. Our assets are working while we maybe on holiday, or doing whatever we're doing. So assets make us a lot more productive. Okay. And number three, you gotta minimize value scavengers. Okay. And what are those? One is tax. Understand the tax laws in your country, and make an effort to reduce your tax liability. Number two is inflation. Money costs less today than it did 10 years ago. Okay. And number three, which means your growth needs to at least beat inflation. Otherwise, you're not really moving forward. And number three are costs. When you invest, make sure that the brokers or the brokerages that you're using cost you the lowest amount possible. Okay, because you might think like the 2% that they talk about, the 1.5% is not that much, but remember, it also compounds, and over time studies have shown that you end up with a lot less because you allowed people to manage your stuff who are costing you or charging you a lot more than others who could have charged you less. Okay, and again, it's yourself because of the emotional, or the emotional roller coasters that we are as people. Today you feel, oh, the stock market is down. You're like, oh no, I need to go sell and stuff. That's really, I think, part of the problem. But again, the message here is, this is the practical wealth building process, and everything in this series really begins to focus on this. And this is what we're dealing with, but bit by bit. Okay, and we're saying priorities, resources, and processes. But it always starts with what you have in your hand. Now, when all is said and done, the summary of everything in this video is this: entropy is the rule on this planet because of the curse that God pronounced. Okay, science doesn't explain how entropy is, how things are, but the Bible does. But God says, if you follow my system, you'll experience abundance. But you still have to do things. You've got to follow order. Okay, and we spoke about priorities, we spoke about resources, and we spoke about processes. And it starts with intentionality. Okay, what are you devoted to? If you want to be healthy, how devoted are you to the goal of being healthy? People say they want things, but they're not really devoted to those things. So there's no intentionality there. And that's really part of the problem. So why you struggle because entropy is how everything is set up in life. And you have to put in the effort to reverse the natural course of events. And if you don't, things will continue to flow in the direction you don't want. I hope you found this video helpful. And remember, it's part of a series where we explain a whole lot of different things. See you in the next video. Bye bye.